Hey guys, happy Friday. Welcome back to Ancestral Healing. Today we are going to dive into mold. The topic of mold is a serious one, and if you haven't been watching all of my videos, you would not know that I got sick from mold last year. I got really, really sick, and it took me by surprise. I'm going to share with you my journey, what happened, what the signs are, and what I'm doing to prevent it from happening in the future. In June of last year, I moved into a house that from the outside seemed pretty decent, from the inside looked pretty decent, but within 2 weeks, I started to get respiratory issues and congested nose, sinus pain, and on top of that, I'm an early bird. I could not, for the life of me, get out of bed earlier than 9 a.m., and it was a drag. And with this came symptoms of depression and anxiety. I would wake up in the morning and I would feel like I had nothing to look forward to. And actually, that's why I wasn't making videos during that time for a really, really long time. I couldn't get myself to do anything, which is very unlike me. And if you're wondering, I was following an animal-based diet at the time as well. So I had all of these crazy symptoms, a permanent pressure headache, congested nose. I had phlegm in my throat. So obviously at first I thought I was getting a cold. And Danny was experiencing similar symptoms, but not as bad as I was. And we lived with a roommate at the time, and I kept telling them, guys, I'm not feeling well. I don't feel good. Something's up. But as the 2 weeks progressed, 3 weeks of living there, things got worse. There was one point when we got home after dinner and we got into bed, and both Danny and I could not breathe. So that's when I realized that I think we have a mold problem. I was already familiar with symptoms of mold because Ashley and Sarah, who are the Strong Sisters on Instagram, they had already been talking about mold because they bought a house that was full of mold. So I was already kind of aware of the symptoms. So then I start Googling my symptoms, doing my research, and everything checked. I thought I had symptoms of mold toxicity. So the first thing that I saw online and Strong Sisters were saying, if you can, eliminate yourself from the environment. So that's what we did. We moved away as soon as we could. And gradually things began to get better internally. It took about a month for me to feel better. I really wanted to go the natural route, so I just used what I thought was best, which was activated charcoal. I would just put a little bit of activated charcoal in the morning in my tea, sorry, in my water, just water. And I think that kind of cleared up on the inside. But what started to happen was I developed a skin condition called tinea versicolor. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's like this, tinea versicolor. So you guys can look it up yourselves. And I dealt with this fungal skin infection for about 7 to 8 months, and it was brutal. I'm going to show you guys a photo of it, of the condition at its worst state, and it was pretty much like this for 7 to 8 months. If you guys check out this picture right now, that's what it looked like. And I realized I had this because it started out with just one spot the last few days that we were living in that moldy home. With time, the spots grew and I became a moldy leopard. It was not painful, it wasn't itchy, but it was really an eyesore. And I had a lot of people come up to me repeatedly over and over again asking me if I've been out in the sun too much and that I should stay away from the sun. And it was like, man, like, these are not sunspots. And I kept having to regurgitate the story of my mold journey. And there's no mold education here where I'm at. It is lacking. There's zero education about mold, and it's a hot and humid country, which is really, really sad. So Just to kind of make this a little bit short so I don't go too into detail, because I can talk about this for hours. There's so many things that happened, so many emotions that were felt, so much research that went into this. I tried so many things, but at first, so I eliminated myself from the environment, and now I had to heal this mold, this fungus on my skin. And I wanted to go the natural route. So I tried it all for like 6 months. I was doing tea tree, coconut oil, some freaking tree bark that someone told me to use. I tried it all, and I isolated all of the treatments and gave them ample time to see if it would make a difference, and absolutely nothing. So I did have to resort to going to the pharmacy after all. So a good friend of mine recommended that I use these pills. I don't know what the pills were called because I didn't take them. I actually used a topical cream called ketoconazole. I'm gonna write it out for you guys. So it's basically an antifungal medication, and you just have to apply it topically for about 2 to 3 weeks, twice a day. I did that, and it went away, and it never came back. So I was super grateful. I wish I had done it sooner, but I think I was hesitant. I wanted to try the natural route, but it was so far gone that I really needed something strong, I believe. I think getting sick from mold is incredibly scary. It literally takes over your mind. I've witnessed how Danny handled it as well when he was sick with it. He didn't get the spots like I did. He just had like the sinus and the fatigue. You're so tired, and it really transformed me as a person. I was not myself for a couple of months. Even when I had healed the internal issues, being sick with the fungal infection on my skin, I think was still impacting me mentally. It is like a parasite. Like, that's kind of what it feels like. It's just something that has like taken over your body and your mind. So you really have to be mindful of where you're living and check your symptoms. A lot of you guys ask me in my comments if I've healed the skin condition. I have. So I made this video for you guys because I really don't want anyone to suffer like I did. But I do really encourage you to remove yourself from the situation, from the environment. That's first things first. It doesn't matter if you're doing any kind of treatment to get better internally or externally. If you're still living in a place that's infested with mold, then you're going to continue to suffer. I think it will make it harder for you to heal faster. So with all that being said, this is the part of the video that I think is the most interesting. It kind of goes against everything that I've ever believed, and this might be news to you. It was news to me, and it still is. I'm still learning about it. But I follow someone on Instagram, and her account is Raw Milk and Honey. Her name is Sophia Beraldi, and she believes that mold is not actually the cause of illness, as we've been told. She says, why is mold in a rainforest harmless, and yet mold in a home environment makes people sick? So I'm going to try my best to explain her Instagram post, but I'm also going to put it down low in the description, and you guys can take a look for it yourself. She has interviews with people, YouTube videos, infographics. There's a lot to look into. So this I'm just going to try to briefly summarize it for you guys. But let's just use this example that she uses. So you have mold. Take mold here, right? So we have mold in nature. The role of mold in nature is to degrade natural materials, right? The degradation of natural materials. And then we have humans. That doesn't impact us at all. When we're in nature and we're exposed to mold that is very well there, we do not get sick. And then take the other situation where you have mold, and then you have mold growing in homes that are built with toxic building materials. And then what's the role of mold there? The role of mold is to degrade the toxic materials. And then you have, as a result, sick humans. So what Sophia says is that the evidence for the assumption that mold is causing illness is severely lacking. And she actually believes that there's an abundance of evidence that we have demonstrating how damaging the hundreds of chemicals that are in building materials are for our health. And if you combine that with humid conditions and you have an environment that is, then you have an environment that is highly toxic. So I think, you know, mold has been here forever. It's going to be here. There's nothing that we can do about it. It's in my new place, but my new place is a completely different construction than the old place. It's made mostly of wood and natural materials. I literally have mold on the knobs of my stove. And when I moved here, I freaked out. Now I literally just take a cloth and I wipe it down and I'm fine. I'm not sick anymore. But in the old place that I lived at, they came in, we got the landlord to come in and they took apart the walls and it was black everywhere. And that building was a completely different, they used completely different materials in this building. So for me, it kind of makes sense because how come I'm living here now? I can still smell mold in certain areas. I do regular cleanings of the place. I'm a very clean person, very hygienic. I try not to keep surfaces wet, but there's still mold. It will always be around, but I'm not sick. Whereas in the other house, I was sick for almost 1 year. And I even removed myself from the situation. So in 2 weeks, I got incredibly sick. And it makes sense to me that maybe it's not the mold, maybe it's the gases that are being um, like expelled into the air from the mold trying to decompose the toxic materials. So it's super cool. I thought I would share that with you guys. It's a theory, it's something I'm still looking into. I mean, this is fascinating to me. I'm always open to new information. I think mold will be a lifelong study for me, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, I will make sure to reply to these comments. I've been making more of a conscious effort to take the time out of my day to communicate with you guys. You have so many awesome questions, so many stories that you're sharing, and I don't want that to go missed. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Have a look at these other two if you haven't seen them already. I appreciate you guys so much. Have a lovely weekend. Bye.